we recognize that it's going to be a difficult process, and we're just asking everybody to help us make it the least difficult for everybody while making sure that water still continues to flow to different facilities. Currently, that's basically all I have right now. We've asked the attendees at the workshop to start working with their local division offices, because they're the ones that have developed and operated under the old water cards, know their fields, know their particular conditions, and have normally worked with them on the water side. So we're asking them to go to division, and if there's any issues that have to be clarified by either me or management or the board, to pass them through so that we can, as soon as possible, address them.
So, Mr. Villalon,
Yes,
if a water user has a concern or a question, whatever, he comes to the division office. So who works with that customer? The water clerks? Who does he or she have to deal with?
Currently, we're asking having a superintendent and assistants be the key people who work with the individuals. In some locations, some of the coordinators are fairly up to speed, some more than others.
So have you provided training to your staff so they're knowledgeable?
We've had same basic presentation that we gave the public to our operating staff. This week we also had additional meetings where, based on the questions that we fielded and questions that the coordinators themselves and division superintendents themselves had run into, we discussed those in both north and south end. Like I say, it's going to be an ongoing process. We're not going to be able to identify everything immediately. I'm sure things will come up as we go, and try to answer them as soon as we can.
Okay.
And as we previously committed to, we'll have an item on next week's agenda on water cards. So everything that we learn up to that point will be bringing forward.
That's correct.
Mr. Dillon, will there be any more workshops on equal distribution between now and the 28th?
If there's a request by the public or direction by the board, we can have more workshops. I don't know that we can have any more information that we've presently provided. You know, the overall program, the rates themselves, the forms themselves. What we're trying to do is work with individuals with their specific situations so that we can clarify things and move along as fast as we can. But barring direction from the board, we can certainly schedule some more workshops.
We'll see how the item goes on the agenda. I have one other question. I know I directed to Mr. King last, I guess to Mr. Brady. I asked last week about if there was any reference from the Bureau on 68 on the line in the All-American, 68,900. And January 12th, San Diego Water Authority minutes reads, Bureau recommendation last month made a formal determination that the amount of water conserved by the 2 completed project reaches. Reclamation determined that Reach 2 conserved 14,760 acre feet a year. Reach 3 conserved 3,320 acre feet a year. Reach 1 is expected to conserve 50,850 acre feet a year. A total of 68,930. My question now is, San Diego and San Luis Rey Indians are entitled to about 67.7. What's going on with the other 1,200 acre feet?
You're absolutely correct. Mr. King is not here, so I don't have that answer for you. But we'll get back. Do you know, Carlos?
As far as I understand, the final conservation numbers are still to be determined. That's part of the contracts for lining. And those are not final yet, because there are some sections that were not lined specifically around the freeway overpasses.
It looks like Reach 2 and 3 are final, looks like, but Reach 1 isn't.
Like I said, they have not finalized those numbers. The second item, if there are no more questions on the first item, it's just a real short
I have a question, Dr.
Yes,
Rance. Carlos, and I know, like I discussed this with Director Hanks and General Manager Brady, on all of the questions that you have that have come up, like on this piece of paper here from the 4 workshops. I guess maybe Dr. Brady, you can answer this. when are we, as a board, going to try to consolidate or try to answer some of these questions so we can try to get this thing firmed up as to what the actual rules and regulations of how this thing's going to work? When do you anticipate we'll have some final decisions on how this thing comes down?
Do you have an answer for that?
Sure. If you notice, during the first two sessions of the question generator, we circulated within the department, answered them, handed them out second session. What we've done since then also is met with a couple more groups like feedlot operators, and the questions that were asked in the second session, we're also cataloging them, because some of those were a repeat of the first session because additional people attended it, weren't at the first session, and we're going to try to separate the reg versus policy versus procedure so that we can start addressing and get back to the board with some recommendations on an ongoing basis. And this will basically be every other meeting so that we can work through the different procedures.
Yeah, because the reason I asked that question, Carlos, because when I talked to you earlier with Director Hanks, this issue of the western farmlands came up. And I know on the sheet that you handed out here, you have it as one way, to me, which is not the fair way to be doing it. And so some of these things, somehow, through the board, we're going to have to figure out how we get all of these questions that the community or the farm people that have gone to the workshops have asked, and we get them all out there so this is a workable product that we have, so we can get it to work as best as it can without, it's going to have problems, but at least try to eliminate some of the problems as we move along.
And Mr. Manville, I think next week's agenda item, and if we have to keep putting it on every agenda or every other one, we're gonna give you the best information we have and staff's recommendation on what an answer is. But that's gonna, we need to get that validated by the board as we go along.
Right. I know, like at the feed yard meeting today, Carlos, that you and I were at, Diane from Camaro asked the question about when we were going to have some answers to what they were trying to put together, and I told her I would assume within 30 days that we had, and that's kind of what I'm asking here, so that's fine. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the regulation that Director Mendel was referring to has to do with growers that are leasing the trust, the right to transfer that water off the trust line. In our discussion today, we feel very strongly that whatever the regulation was for the growers, it should be the same for the trust line. I see that as a recommendation brought back to the whole board to consider.
That's one of the first items that we'll be addressing. But that was that occurred in the first session.
Thank you.
A little bit short update on the Integrated Resources Management Plan. The consultant is in and working. They tell us they are on schedule based on different sources of information and plans that have scoped out for them. IT staff and the have scheduled meetings and are scheduling meetings this week with city and county managers and planners to start getting some feedback and give them an idea of where the direction is as the status scope in the project. The service agreement is being prepared now because of some modeling changes that have to be identified, or have been identified, that will have to be added to the initial effort that was scoped out. That'll be brought back soon. Just reminding you that this is funded 100% through the format geothermal deposit that was is scheduled. And as far as I know, the funding is $750,000, 30 days from the contract signing, and remaining due 1 year later, a total of $1.5 million, and that'll pay, as far as we see, at least all of this effort. Do you have any questions? I do have a lead person for that project here, Sabrina Barber.